Wisdom Ways is all about living from the true power of who you are. Marianne Williamson once said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." If that is true, then how can we let go of those fears and become one with our authentic power? Speaking from personal experience, insights, and stories of awareness, Richard Schultz, spiritual healer and guide, invites you to take a courageous journey with him to finally let go of your deepest fears and embrace inner power beyond measure. Get prepared to travel to the inner spaces that will expand your awareness, freedom, and mastery of life.
Hi, and thank you so much for tuning in to Wisdom Ways to Living from Your True Power. I'm your host, Richard Schultz, and we've been talking about how to get plugged into your authentic power and how to stop the energy leakages that you've been picking up all of your journey in life. We've been setting the foundations for understanding this work, such as an understanding of the mind, about changing subconscious beliefs, mirrors of relationships, emotions, and even forgiveness. In the last couple of podcasts, I've started to get specific with integrating wholeness by claiming back the parts of us that we've lost and given away in order to feel loved or to survive. I've called these shadows, and they can be both light and dark. In both the light and dark, there's tremendous power, and if we have cut ourselves off from either, then we'll be living more shallow lives and hiding behind masks. When we claim back these shadow parts, we live more authentically in our inherent brilliance. If this is your first podcast, I invite you to go back and listen to the podcast right from the start. They'll help you understand the basis of this work and why it is such important work to do. If you like what you've been learning in this free podcast, please share it with your friends and family so that they can get the benefit too. Today, I'm going to talk about another common shadow that most of us have had issues with or still have issues with. This is the shadow of control. So how do you know that you have a shadow of control? What would some of the symptoms be in the way this shadow shows up in your life and creates disturbances in your life? How might it show up as an energy leakage? In an earlier podcast, I talked about the mirrors of relationship. If in any of your relationships you have patterns of control showing up, where you're triggered or fall into an over-dramatization of how horrible this experience or this person is, then you may be in the mirror of control. If you're triggered by a person's lack of control, for example, angry that they have no self-control over finances, addictions, or other things in their life, you may also be under the influence of this mirror. It could be another mirror, another shadow, but control tends to be one of those master mirrors that keeps showing up with other shadows or mirrors. It is often present in our human experience and takes many forms. Here are some of the indicators of where this mirror may be exposing itself. Ask yourself these questions honestly. Do you have people around you that are very controlling, such as a spouse, parent, roommate, teacher, colleague, friend, or boss? Are they obsessed with proving themselves, being in charge of everything, or getting their own way? Is it a pattern that repeats itself, or you find it showing up in several relationships? Do you find the experience with them emotionally triggering, or is it highly dramatizing? Is this behavior you really dislike and can't stand? If this does not describe others around you, does it describe you sometimes? Do you have a fear of losing control in some or many areas of your life? Maybe it is in regards to finances, health, work, or in a relationship. From your fear, do you do everything to control the situation, or do you find this control exhausting but necessary if you're going to survive? Do you get anxious or reactive in situations that are unpredictable, ambiguous, or unstructured? Do you sometimes find yourself in overwhelm because controlling everything is just too much to handle? Is this a pattern? Do you find the experience emotionally charged? Is it a behavior you really dislike and can't stand about yourself? At the extreme, Would someone label you OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder? Another question you might ask yourself is it easy for you to surrender control, or does the word surrender itself trigger you or bring up fear? For example, I've worked with a lot of women that end up in controlling relationships with men. The energy of control causes stress in their relationship, and as with any mirror or shadow, it is the other, the man, that has the control issues, not them personally. The man is the one who needs to change if the relationship is to be salvaged. The stories are all similar. It is often a pattern that goes back to their relationship with their father and has shown up in many relationships since. I'm not saying that these men do not have control issues. They do. However, to work with the mirrors and the shadows, it is important to take personal responsibility for attracting or creating the experience. After all, the common denominator in the experience is the person having the repeating pattern, or the person that's triggered is the one that has an issue, for sure. The other person may not be willing to do their work. If you've been attracting people into your life with control issues, then you can't actually change them, but you can change your experience of them and end your pattern and projections. Control is a masculine trait and often associated with the left hemisphere of the brain. It is not a negative or a positive quality, but like everything else, a full spectrum from dark to light. If we have learned and been conditioned to feel that control is bad and rejected it, then we'll experience it as a negative quality. If we've been conditioned to fear losing control, then we might be overly controlling and have difficulty letting go and just allowing the flow of life and situations to unfold. If we have to control situations, then we lose the spontaneity, surrender, and freedom of the feminine. Control can be a high vibration energy when owned and in balance. We are exercising an aspect of control when we learn to take charge of our lives by setting goals, focusing, and taking action to fulfill them. We are taking control when we learn to change limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs in programs like my own. We can learn many tools from many sources to take control over business, health, relationships, money, sexuality, or our spiritual path. Control is empowering when we own the energy. However, if we fear losing control, we can block ourselves from success by restricting the flow of life so much that we suffocate and cut off its natural breath. If we are to experience the power and flow of our divine nature, then we need to surrender all ego control. If you have shadows around control, this is almost impossible. You need to own the shadows of control. Not long ago, I had an experience with a person that was highly controlling of his business. I, and many others, worked under license teaching his material. Most of us got triggered or influenced by this high level of control until we dealt with our side of the mirror, if we did. His control showed up in very restrictive licensing, fears of losing copyrights of the program, fear of success and expansion, and tightly controlled structures. This was not all bad. It was good business to be having the proper controls in place. However, at times, many of us, in order to expand his business and our own, decided it was better to ask forgiveness than permission if we were going to move forward, because asking permission was like pulling teeth with the usual response of no coming from his own fears and distrust. Within this environment of control, there was little freedom for our own creativity because departing from his way of doing things risked falling into disfavor with him and the possibility of losing your license. This man was just being who he was and running his business the way he thought it was to be run. Control was more real to him than trust. He probably had his own repetitive experiences with being betrayed by people in his life, so control became his way of handling his own wounds. For the people that had to work with him, our shadow experience was to play in the mirror of control and learn to embrace this powerful energy for ourselves. The man was just our mirror to trigger us into doing the inner work, which we chose to do. If we did not do the work, then it would continue to show up somewhere in our life until we did. Shadows will never leave us alone until we turn towards them and embrace them. When we are balanced with control, we have no fear. We can choose with love and ease anywhere along the spectrum of control, according to our needs in that moment, rather than a subconscious trigger or old story. In collapsing the mirror, we own the power of control, and it becomes a capacity to use rather than a demon to manage. We're going to take a short break right now, and after the break, we'll dive a little deeper into the shadow of control, the possible benefits of creating this shadow in the first place, and the power and energy of this shadow that may get you unstuck and living in more freedom with your relationships, money, health, spirituality, or life in general.
You're busy. Your life is hectic. But if you take just a few minutes every day for yourself, you can improve your relationships, health, success, and self-esteem. All you need to do is join Richard Schultz for his online course, The Refreshing Beliefs Method. You'll learn how to release fears and how to use your whole mind to achieve your goals toward a better life. Join Richard Schultz online today at refreshingbeliefs.com. Get back in charge of your life. That's online at refreshingbeliefs.com.
So welcome back to the second half of Wisdom Ways to Living from Your True Power. Before the break, we were talking about the shadow of control. This is a shadow that affects almost every human being at some level. Control is a masculine, left hemisphere quality, while spontaneity and freedom is a feminine quality. When we disown, reject, or lose the other side of this spectrum over the other, we create a shadow which will follow us around and create havoc until it is owned and embraced. This is because our power is in wholeness, owning the full capacity from spontaneous and surrender to control by conscious choice. Our soul's direction is to have us embrace our full power and collapse this dualistic perspective of energies like control. So, are shadows and mirrors of control showing up in your life in some form? Be honest with yourself. Do you fear losing control in some aspect of your life? Are you highly controlling of your money, your relationships, your health and fitness, your politics? Or do you have no control at all? Are you so spontaneous and free that money just slips out of your hands? Are you a doormat in your relationships because you won't take control of your own goals and desires in life? Are you being sold all kinds of programs so that you'll have more control over aspects of your life, but never actually stick to any program, and instead are off to the next one? Spontaneity is king. You don't have any control. Are you able to surrender and trust the flow of life, or do you need to manage and control it? Guess what? Life happens and is not fully within your control. If you cannot surrender to the flow of life, you are unable to fully live with the freedom that life can offer you. If you're unable to control your environment in some respects, you'll never reach your goals and dreams. There is an aspect of control that's needed in life. These might all be related to the shadow of control, either as a light shadow or, from your perspective, a dark shadow. Let's now examine the shadow of control. You might do this exercise in meditation or create a safe space where you can be fully present with it. You might do this exercise by writing. First, connect with the feeling of a control experience that triggered you, where you had an emotional charge. For example, think of that person in your life that was highly controlling. After you've connected with the feeling fully, where do you feel that feeling in your body? Locate the feeling and the sensation there. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is extremely uncomfortable, what is it for you? A 2, a 5, an 8? Have you ever had this feeling before? When? Is it a pattern? When was the earliest time in your life when you felt this control or fear of losing control, whatever it is for you? What were the circumstances? It was probably very early in life. How old were you? Perhaps it was with a parent. What happened? What did the parent or person do? Allow yourself to fully feel the experience and stay with the discomfort, sadness, or anger that emerges. Allow yourself to feel it without holding back. Surrender to it. When you've felt it until you're empty and written fully about the experience while feeling it, then consider what decisions that earlier you made as a result of that experience. Did you decide that controlling behavior was bad and you never wanted to be that way? Did you decide to be spontaneous and free and reject control because control was bad? Did you experience having no control over the situation at that time that was unsafe and maybe even life-threatening, and therefore you decided that you should control everything so that you'll never go into a similar situation, that they would never arise again? Was being in control a way to survive as that child? By rejecting a part of yourself such as control or spontaneity, it had benefits for you and shaped your life. That childhood experience and the decision to create a shadow helped you to survive and drove you to develop some capacities or life skills. How did this experience shape your life in a positive way? What did you become or do as a result of this childhood experience? For example, by developing a controlling nature, maybe you became a very successful business person and created great wealth. Maybe you became a great provider and created a safe, structured environment for your family. Alternatively, maybe you developed a compassion and empathy for women or men that were in unhealthy, controlling relationships, and you counsel them to find their freedom. Maybe you help individuals create more structure and controls in their own life so that they are more successful and focused on their goals. Maybe control has helped you with discipline in your fitness or spiritual routine. Consider that for a moment. Challenge yourself to come up with many benefits to having that original experience and benefits from being controlling or rejecting control in your life. Feel and understand that inner child and what it has been trying to do for you all along, all this time, and thank it for its positive intentions in your life. Next, consider what benefits you would get from now embracing this shadow you have created around control. If you have a fear of losing control, what would it be like if you just let go, embrace the chaos, spontaneity, and freedom? What if you just surrendered? Would life be easier? Would it be more exciting, like on a roller coaster? How would your relationships with yourself and others change? If you're projecting control onto others, that is, you can't stand people that are controlling, then consider the benefits for you owning your own control. If you loved and accepted control and were more controlling or had this capacity with loving choice, how would it change your life? Would you take charge and leave the controlling relationship you're in and therefore control your own life rather than complaining or trying to change someone else? If you're trying to fix someone else, you're actually trying to control them too. Would you have more compassion for people that are controlling, knowing that they're just doing the best they can and they have some inner wounding that is contributing to their behavior? Would you have better control over your own life and own decisions rather than attracting others into your life to control you? Would you dissolve the mirror? Finally, if you're feeling complete and in a place of gratitude for the experience and understanding how embracing control or lack of control can serve you now in your life, then imagine bringing that part back into your heart or putting it beside you. Put it on your team as a consultant that you can ask help from on occasion and use the energy, its power, and capacity by loving choice. Using control by loving choice. These have been an example of how you can process and embrace your shadows, and in this case, control. This work is not always so easy if you don't quite get it. If you have fears of losing control, you might even have a fear of processing shadow because you fear losing control into your emotions. Shadow work is emotional work, and it is important to allow and surrender to the emotion without control. So this could be a block when you're doing it yourself. Don't worry about it. Let it go. Most people actually need a skilled facilitator to help them identify and shift the shadow to embrace its power. If you've not been able to embrace your shadows around control, then please give me a call. I have a full system to deal with embracing shadows. I will stand by your side and hold space for you to become free. My shadow work is an experience that is impossible to teach through an audio podcast like this, but it is highly effective. It is an emotional experience that will take you from distress and judgment to joy and relief. It will shift your life. If you are stuck somewhere in your life, I can help you with your shadows, light and dark, and that will help you set yourself free. If this feels right for you, email me, ring me up, or make an appointment with me. You'll find me at www.wisdomways.net. Thank you for tuning in to Wisdom Ways to Living from Your True Power, here on the tlrstation.com, powered by Tenacious Living International, where it's all about living outside the box. Have a fantastic day, everyone.
Are you ready to claim your authentic power? Visit www.wisdomways.net/power to gain instant access to Richard's free video course on being powerful. And if Richard said something today that truly impacted you and you'd like to talk with him further about it, please connect with him directly at 403-247-8042. Thanks for listening to Wisdom Ways. Have a great day. Talk with you next week.